What is up, guys? Keith Jamison, Fantasy Sports Insight, here to break down March 7th's 5-game EPL slate on Draftkings. I'll do a separate FanDuel one here at the end, but for the first and the majority of the pod and video will be about Draftkings. It's a 5-game slate. DraftKings dropped off the final game, which I love. Means that we get all of our lineups right at 9. Have an hour sprint to get in a couple lineups, get our builds right, and hopefully enjoy some of the best 2 hours of DFS sweats out there. A solid slate. We don't have any huge overwhelming favorites, but we have a couple solid favorites. The big boys, for the most part, are not on the slate. I don't know if we can consider Arsenal a big boy anymore in terms of the big squads, but no Liverpool, no City, no United, no Chelsea. So, a lot of these marquee names are not on the slate. So it really should make this a fun build. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into the picks. So as we go to the forward position, like we always start out at, highest priced player on the slate is Aubameyang. There is not a floor with Aubameyang worthy of this 10-3 price tag. Even with him out wide, you're still going to need at least one goal. Honestly, you can dodge one. Dodging 2 goals might be harder, but it's a solid matchup versus West Ham, who has been shaky to say the least. But yeah, I think he's a fine play. I prefer Pepe for cash. We get $1,400 discount and a share of sets with Pepe. He's actually really starting to look like the guy that they were looking to get this summer from Lille. He's on a share of sets, starting to shoot a little bit, and just very against that same shaky West Ham defense. I think he actually gives you more of a threat coming out wide and cutting in to get an assist and give us that double-digit floor that we really want in cash. So he's actually our first lock for this preview pod and video. Again, just to set share, he's completely taken over for Ozil. Ozil's actually even lost to Ceballos on the other side. So just think that there's really no reason for us to pay Pepe at 8,900. I was really thinking that I was going to open the slate up and see him at 10K. So 8,900 was actually a nice thing to see. So I think the second forward position is going to be really where this slate is decided. I think some of the top priced midfielders and defenders are going to be relatively easy to spot, but what we do the second forward is really probably what's going to make or break the slate. So obviously you can get to Aubameyang. I played around with some builds. He is very in play. You just lose one of the high priced midfielders and high floor guys that in cash we probably want to have. So let's go down the list. Jimenez, if I'm going to spend that much on a goal-dependent forward, it's going to be Aubameyang. That said, that makes Jimenez that much lower owned for a GPP candidate. And we've seen Wolves have become very much an attacking side this season, more so than last year under Nuno. His teammate Jota is in one of these runs of goals. So if you go back to, let me see if I can pull it up real quick, but if you go back and you add in the Europa League game, Jota, let's see what his goal scoring record is. Sorry, I should have had this pulled up. But so he had a goal and assist this weekend for Tottenham, 2 goals for first Norwich, 3 goals for Espanyol in the Europa League. Jota got on this run last year too. I want to say it might have only been 3 games, so we might be getting to the end, but those logs, are going to grab some ownership, especially in GPP. I'll be honest with you, I like Danny Ings more for leverage. Newcastle away from home is actually just a battering ram for teams for shots, crosses, and just pressure. Ings accounts, when you see a goal notification for Southampton, you assume that it's Ings. So while I don't know if he's a great cash play, I think for GPP he might be my favorite GPP forward on the slate to pair up with Ward-Prowse or Bertrand, which we'll go over later. but think a really good chance to score. Even has that upside for 2 goals. And I think the discount that you get on like a Yota, like ownership wise, might be worth it. I could be wrong. Ings could be higher owned. I just wonder with those logs for Yota if he's going to be popular. Traore is actually a better cash play than Jimenez or Yota. Pretty much locked for double digits when he's in. So if we have enough value, we get a good like value fullback or something along those lines. I think he's very in play for cash, just to lock in that 10 to 15, and then get a goal or an assist, and you're really cooking. Ismail Assar. So I was really, really hoping that it's going to open this up and he's like 7K, and that would be the easy second forward. It's still a fine matchup versus Palace. Palace is not going to command possession. They did versus Newcastle, but I think that's just kind of a one-off type of team. I don't think that will be the case versus Watford, but I brought up Sarr as a GPP candidate versus Liverpool. I just thought there was a good opportunity for him to trouble them. I never expected what we got, which was 40 DK. But that said, I think he is in play. Just at 8,500, it's steep. If Traore is in, it's really hard to recommend chancing Sarr when Traore is only 200 more. From there, we're going to drop down a while. All these plays in the mid-tier, Martinelli, I don't think it would be in. Bowen, he may have earned another start, but there's no sort of sets or anything for him. Dini, no. Antonio, I think, is worth a look. I loved him last week at home. I thought West Ham was in a dire situation and would just come out cooking, which they did. But at Arsenal, I think that they'll take a lot more of a pragmatic counterattacking type of approach. At 7,200, you're really needing a goal or assist, I think, from Antonio to get there. So for that reason, I think I'll pass. Lacazette, I think, is out of favor for Arsenal. For Nketiah, who I'm going to go over later, who I think is actually in a cash pool. But if Lacazette is in at 7K, I think that's a lot of upside for him. I honestly think that if he is in the starting 11, he'd be one of my higher owned GPP forwards. Just the price tag is sweet. Shane Long, there are people that play Shane Long, and there are people that don't. I am on the side of the people that don't. Really a better real-life footballer than a DFS player. He does a lot that coaches love in terms of a motor, chasing down, pressuring, but just not somebody that we really can rely on week in, week out. Zaha, man, he had a really difficult game versus Brighton. Missed a sitter at the end, which could have swayed a lot of showdown cash. But 6,800 is a solid price. Just keep in mind, Zaha, he's not crossing much. He is drawing fouls, does shoot, but there's no sort of sets there. But I think he will be fairly popular for the namesake and the matchup. Home versus Watford should be a good spot for him to get that 8 to 10 range. So again, very much in play. I'm not going to sit here and just say, my goodness, what a lock. You have to have him in your lineups or you're an idiot. I think there's other ways you can go. Gross is out of the side. I don't expect to see him coming in, and even if so, at Wolves with what a mess Brighton sets have been, I don't think he's in play. What I have noticed with Gross is anytime that we just discount him is when he goes off, and then when he's chalk, he duds. So if he's in, he'll probably hit like 20. I will not have him. Jordan Ayew's been in a really good run of form for Palace. Let's see if I'm right on that. I am. So versus Newcastle, he had 19.6 DK without a goal or assist. Brighton needed that goal, but he is a player that when he's going does draw fouls and shoot. I probably would choose Zaha over him for an extra 400, but if I didn't have it, worse things could happen than landing with Ayew. Trossard, no, not on sets anymore. So the next guy that I'll just point out that's in my player pool is Eddie Nketiah. The young Arsenal striker that just came back from Leeds and it's been awesome for them since coming back. He's only 5,800, so really hasn't gotten the price jump that he deserves. He just scored midweek in the FA Cup. Believe he scored their last game versus Everton. Yes, he did. Played all 90 as well. 1 goal, 3 shots, 1 on target. He is very goal dependent, but at 6,000 for a heavy favorite versus a very dodgy defense, you'd probably expect an efficient price on him would more likely be 7,500. So if he's leading the line for Arsenal, expect him to have some ownership, and he is cash viable. If Reece Nelson is in, we saw him take everything for Arsenal, but that was because Pepe was not in. I don't expect him to be in the side. Almiron, I think ever since I said on the pod that I'm not an Almiron guy, I think he has been awesome. I know he just scored 2 in the FA Cup, 12.4 versus Burnley without a goal. Definitely in play, especially at the tag at 5,300. Just again, I think Southampton's really going to lay it on Newcastle. They're going to be my favorite GPP stack this week. So I just don't expect myself to be on Almiron. Let's see if there's any other forwards. I guess if Townsend starts, he's finally back to fitness. I just think that Benteke, oddly enough, is playing well enough that front three, Hodgson is just happy with Zaha, Benteke, and Ayew. So I don't really think that there's room for Townsend at this point. More of a finesse, like luxury player, and I don't think that's the way Palace is playing these days. I don't really see any other options to just full out punt. A guy that I've seen get some ownership is Smallbone. If he was in, considering how much I like Southampton, he would be in play, but he is out for the match. All right, so let's head over to midfield. Again, I went over everybody that has Ford eligible, so we're just going to jump straight down. So James Ward-Prowse, if here's the tough case. He's close to a lock for me. I may come back and decide to put him in there, but he's been playing a lot of right back for Southampton. Now, I guess with Smallbone out, we might see him shift in, but he's been really solid at right back for them. Now, when he's in midfield, he's been taking almost all the sets. When he's at right back, they don't have him sprint to the other side of the field, and Bertrand comes from his left back position and takes those corners. So at 8,200, it's kind of expensive for a right back with only half the sets. But Newcastle, away from home, is, I kind of alluded to, but it's pretty abysmal at taking just a ton of pressure. Fun stat for you, they allow, where is it? They allow 26 crosses per game away from home, whereas when they are home, they only allow 22. So we have seen them just have some huge games where they're just taking a ton of pressure. And if that's the case, I don't only want Ward-Prowse, but I want Bertrand too, and just sit there and take my 20 to 25 crosses between the two of them and just have everybody chase me with the goals. So I think he's very, very solid. Snodgrass, I don't want for 8K away from home to Arsenal. He has split sets with Cresswell too. So 8K is a lot to pay for split sets. Just no thanks. Who I am going to go ahead and just put in here, which is gross to say, and some of the guys that have known me forever are just probably going to rag on me, but João Moutinho will be in my lineup come Saturday. He takes all the sets for Wolves, gets your occasional defensive peripheral, but versus Brighton, a lot of these, they're another team like Newcastle that really gives up a ton more away from home than when they are at home. Let's see if I can get that number real quick. But yeah, Brighton, 20 crosses per game away from home, whereas when they are at home, they're only averaging 17. So I just think Moutinho has a really solid chance at about 10 crosses, which is 7 DK. Start adding, 3 to 4 shots assisted. All of a sudden, before you know it, you're at 10 to 11 without even a goal, assist, or any defensive peripherals. So at 7,100, I like just getting that floor in there for him. So I think he's a very solid play, very fadeable too. I'll just point that out, but I think he does give us a solid floor. He might not necessarily fit Aubameyang builds. This might be a place where you can pivot off of it, but I really like him. John Fleck, split sets for Sheffield. For $400 more, we get Moutinho on a full out Monopoly. So I prefer that, but Fleck, maybe in a Sheffield stack makes a lot of sense. Or if you're through with your lineup and you have $7,400 left, I have zero issue playing Fleck. So we scroll down and see who else pops out here. Shelby was not on any sets for Newcastle, or maybe he took an occasional corner. I don't have the data up, but there's no chance I'd play him here. Moy, 6,300 is worth a look. He was on most of the sets for Brighton versus Palace with no grips. So I think he's fine for 6,300. There's other players I prefer. Milojevic, I probably butchered that, but it does have the Crystal Palace PKs. It's more defensive and has been splitting with PVA when he is in. But 6,100 is a solid price. I think probably a month or two ago we were paying 7,500 to 8,000 for him. So 6,100 as a home favorite is fine. Lazaro, again, has been pretty much Newcastle's preferred set taker. It would be interesting to see him in without Richie. There's not much of a sample on that. But without Richie, I think at 5,900 is in play. He's another guy that's playing more right back. He played midfield for Newcastle midweek FA Cup and scored. So 5,900 solid price. St. Maximin, Newcastle draws a ton of fouls, takes some shots, but again, I'm really bullish on Southampton this week, so I don't really see myself going out on my way for some Newcastle pieces. Oliver Norwood, 5,500. You could do much worse than a guy on half the sets for a solid home favorite versus Norwich. Last week, 14 crosses versus Brighton. I guess that wasn't last week. I want to say maybe it was 2 weeks ago. But, it's funny. Look across his log, though. No other peripherals other than the crosses and shots assisted, but still got 14.2. When somebody asked me why I like set taker so much, that's the reason. Solly March is actually just an awesome DFS player. He shoots a ton, takes some corners, crosses an open play. Really actually enjoy watching him, but does lack a lot of finishing quality. He got pulled early versus Crystal Palace after he missed a sitter. And just kind of wasn't obviously what Potter was looking for on his side, but for DFS purposes, if he's in at 5,400, I really like him. Let's go down. See if anybody else stops that. So I do want to mention Danny Ceballos, the Real Madrid loanee. So he has been back in the side recently. Takes half the corners with Pepe. For Arsenal, that's not always like a great thing. They do take some corners short. But he's a really solid player. If you think back to his Betis time, you kind of look at his heat map. He isn't advancing forward a ton. He really is truly playing like a central midfield holding type of role. But, if Arsenal really are pushing the attack, he doesn't mind getting forward. Has played like an attacking midfield for Spain's under-21s and even I think a couple for the senior team. But he is, a very versatile player. So at 4,500, I think you could do a ton worse. And somebody that I've landed on a couple builds. So keep him in mind. So we go down. I'm sure Will Hughes will get some tread. He's been taking most of the Watford sets. Messina's taken a few. But he is at set duty for 4,200, and there's always going to be ownership on these guys with sets. So 4,200, I prefer Ceballos, but can do worse than Hughes. Mark Noble randomly took a corner last week, and it's on PK2, who used for West Ham, but I think he more so took a corner due to the lack of Snodgrass. Although Fornals was on the field, who I would have said was on half the sets with Cresswell, so was wrong there. We go down. I don't think there's going to be much left here, but let's just make sure nothing pops out worth a strong look. Yeah, that would probably be about it at midfield. I do want to say, let me just look at Palace. McCarthy, just worth noting, he's been splitting sets with Van Aanholt with Milosevic out of the side. He left last week injured, so if he is back and there's no Milosevic, 4,100 is fine. Just there's not much there other than the corners. Okay, defender, we're gonna get to our final lock, which is Ryan Bertrand. So since getting some corners back, he has 12.2, 15.2, 10.2, 8.6, 15.8 DK, and now gets the best matchup of all of those games at home versus Newcastle, who I just think Southampton, at least early on, is just going to blitz. So I like Bertrand to get double digits. One thing that, a lot of sharp players, really do take advantage of on DK is the soft defender pricing. You get this type of production from a midfielder, and, he's going to be 7-8K. Yet he's at defender, and even with the matchups, only 5,600. So that's huge. Doherty, it's kind of goal or bust. He's been on awesome form lately, but more of a GPP play to me. Richie was amazing last week at home. He was playing an advanced role. Took a majority of corners with no Lazaro. So 5,800 I think is in play. Just I don't necessarily know if I'm going to prioritize him given my my thoughts that Newcastle is very much on the defensive. That said, when he gets the ball, especially in a crossing position, he's going to toss in the cross. So especially if Newcastle were to fall behind, he could be great near the end of the game. But again, I'm not necessarily prioritizing him right now. Van Aanholt, if you don't see Milosevic in, he will at least be on half the corners, even with Luka in, he may be. So 5,500 for half the sets for a home favorite is solid. Stevens, my more preferred of the Sheffield wingbacks. It's been good lately. I've seen that he is supposed to be fit for this match, so 5,400 is a solid price. Can really see you ending with 3 defenders. And, 3 of these 4K to 5K defenders, I think, is a very solid build. Saka, when Arsenal are on the front foot, and especially if they're struggling to score, can get in some crosses, but otherwise Arsenal really does not like crossing from their fullbacks. But 5,100 is fine. Baldock in play. Vinagre should be starting for Johnny, who is out. 4,800 is not a discount that I was hoping for. I was hoping to pull up and see 3,800, but it's in play. And just only one other defender I just want to bring up, Aaron Cresswell, 4K. I'm not, despite favoring Arsenal in this matchup, I don't think that West Ham will be completely devoid of DFS goodness. So Cresswell at 4K does stand out as a soft price for a crossing fullback that also is on some set duty. What you do want to see is if Masasako is in, and I know I butchered that, but Arthur, however you want to say his last name, but if you do see him in, he will always be wider than Cresswell, and it could be a back 3, which in that case, I don't think you want to pay 4K on this slate for someone in the back 3. But if you don't see him in and Cresswell is playing left back, he has no problem getting forward and should be on half the sets. Goalie, do whatever. I think Dubravka will be very popular. I do not have any problem playing Dubravka versus my Southampton pieces. Kind of an added game narrative that I think sometimes we don't weigh enough is, that when a guy is if we're playing multiple set takers from a team and we're thinking that they're going to score, well, if the goalie is standing on his head making a ton of saves, that's only actually helping our stacks. So, if you have Ward-Prowse and Bertrand and Dubravka saving everything in sight, Ward-Prowse and Bertrand are just going to keep tossing in corner after corner and cross after cross, and you could easily see, 15 floor points from each. And then even if Dubravka eventually concedes, if he has 5 saves, that's 8 points for 4,100. And meanwhile, Everybody else paid an extra $1,700 for Patricio. Wolves is dominating the entire game and then concedes in the 90th minute, and he had one save and gets the win, and he has 5 DK. So that's why, paying up for goalie can be so costly sometimes. And as I've seen myself evolving as a DFS player, I'm more and more just taking whatever goalie I can get. More often than not, it's a low price guy, and that's the rationale behind it. Hope you all enjoyed this DK preview. We're going to be jumping over to FanDuel shortly, but if this is the end for your listening, would love to see you in the chat or to try out FSI. You can do so for as little as $3 a day, $10 a week for our soccer content, all sorts of other packages on the site, so check us out. All right, so now that we've got DK taken care of, let's do a quick look at FanDuel. Keep in mind, for those that are either new to FanDuel or new to the pod, just biggest thing on FanDuel is goal dependency is so much higher than Draftkings. We don't have crosses, so everything is goal, assist, or really when we're talking offensively, shots assisted. None of the other stats we can really project too well. As floors, we don't get fouls drawn, so it's tackles, it's interceptions, it's shots, goals, assists, shots assisted. So we really do want to favor the favorite goalkeepers. So I think, the favorite goal scorers. So I think the first guy in your lineup, even though he is pricey, is PEA. Aubameyang does have the highest goal scoring stats on the slate, and even at 23, I think you'll find that you can find a way to fit him. Bergwijn, no chance. I'm playing 2,100 for a winger against Spurs, so that's another big difference. Is FanDuel does have the late game, but that price is crazy. That means he'll score, but whatever. Pepe, fine with the sets, but 20, again, we don't get crosses, a lot less of a goal scoring threat than Aubameyang. So I am leaving my Arsenal exposure with just Aubameyang. Raul Jimenez, I really do like his goal scoring upside versus Wolves. I'm going to prefer, where is he down here? Danny Ings at 16, who's our second lock. I just think that the upside on Ings is similar, and we get that price discount of $3, which we can use at goalie, a defender, or some of these midfield spots. So I do like that aspect. As we go down, WordPress loses a lot of value on FanDuel without crosses being in play, but he still gets shots assisted as the majority set taker for Southampton, so I think that is in play. Bowen, it was funny, I played him last week on the FanDuel slate at $8, and he's already jumped up to 17 because of that goal. 17 is not in play for me. Sar, fine at 17, but you're really needing that goal as a wide player. I probably would prefer, a number 9. There's going to be a few others that we're going to go to. So I already locked in Ings for us as well. Sorry that I keep moving this view. I forget on FanDuel that I have to be careful with how I scroll. Let's see who else sticks out here. Nketiah, I think is, again, I think he's in DK consideration at 15 on FanDuel, very in play too. Leading the line for Arsenal more than likely. Let's see who else sticks out here. So Lo Celso, I would imagine he's in. You have that off chance that he's not in for Spurs, but has been by far the Spurs' best offensive player. They are favored at home versus Burnley. They should, command the game to an extent. On a set monopoly, so I think 14 is really solid for him, and he's very involved in tackling and things of that nature. Same price point as João Moutinho. If you didn't know that Lo Celso was in, Moutinho, would be your pivot, but there's that 2-hour difference between the two. But 14, he really does fine on FanDuel scoring. If we look at his log, 17.2, 8.2, 10.3, 25. That's all without a goal or assist, so there is a solid 4 there because, again, FanDuel rewards you for tackles attempted, not tackles completed. Buendia went off injured in the FA Cup. I don't know if he's going to be fit. We'll know later today, but this is recorded pre all those. Traore at $13 is a great price for Brighton. He was a guy that I probably would be targeting if in. Ceballos, solid play for Arsenal, takes half the sets, is involved in tackling, interceptions, and gets the occasional shot. So for 12, I think it's in play. Sorry, I did not mean to click Ashley Barnes, who will not be in. Norwood's fine. Doesn't necessarily make me excited, but I'd be okay with him in. Let's see if anybody else sticks out here. Lazaro, more of a DK play. All of his values coming from crossing, so he'd really need to get on the end of an assist or a goal to get us there. And from his wide position, not as likely. Will Hughes is fine for his tackling upside, but that's about what you're getting from him. I don't think there's anybody else really that's jumping out. Again, I would really just focus on some Southampton, Wolves, Arsenal looks in my forward positions, and maybe with the off Lo Celso. I try to miss. How much is Lucas? Lucas Moore for 16 is fine for Spurs too, but I think those are the sides that I would go after. At defender, we always want to look for the cheapest center back on the biggest dogs. So let's first look at West Ham and see what those guys are priced at. So we've got Agbana 11, which is fine. Diop is 14, which is probably a little bit much, but $11 for Agbana is fine. Let's check Brighton. See what Webster is. Dan Burn, if he's in a back three, is great. But he's been playing a lot of left back, so that lowers his floor. Duffy's in, guy that does a ton of clearances. Webster, $11 is a good play too if we have it. Still looking for this Stone Min guy that always seems to show up on FanDuel. For Watford, Cathcart, 12, probably about the cheapest center back. So no. Newcastle, let's see who we got here. They're going to be doing a lot of clearing. Lascelles, 12, probably my favorite of the center backs that we've brought up so far. If we get there, again, should have a double-digit cross clearance floor. And again, this is kind of my process when I'm going on FanDuel in terms of looking for my defender. What center back can I get? So Godfrey, $10 would actually probably be the guy at this point, the cheapest of the center backs that we got. So he was awesome in the FA Cup versus Spurs. Norwich's backline is just really hampered. So I think that's probably the guy that I'm going to just mention to you guys to look at building around is Ben Godfrey. All those other center backs that I brought up are very in play. Let me just go back to the sort and see if there's any high-priced guys. I really don't like any of these high-priced fullbacks that they're giving us, so I think it's a 2 center back week on FanDuel. Finally, at goalie, let's just make sure FanDuel also can give us a lot of goalkeeper misprices. So let's just scroll down and make sure that they didn't give us a favorite for $8. Always look if there's ever a goalkeeping shakeup and there's a backup. All the backups are priced at $8, so you can a lot of times get a favorite keeper for Stone Min. So again, in this situation, so I don't think he's necessarily good, but odds wise he should be $13 or $14 because Zinga, if Lloris isn't fit, we'll have to see this afternoon what they say because you need 2 pieces because if he's not in late, you can't switch to Pope either, so you would be taking... Oh, there you go. Lloris, they do have out. So $9 for Gazzaniga as a favorite is going to be the popular cash option for Spurs. I think Dean Henderson, if you're paying up, is probably the best pay up. He or Patricio both have really good shots at a clean sheet. I don't really want to pay 14 for Leno. And then Guiata was awesome last week, but I am worried that Watford Crystal Palace seems like a 1-1 draw to me. So anyhow, that's FanDuel. If you want to give us a shot, we not only cover DK, but like if you're here, we cover FanDuel too for soccer. $3 a day, $10 a week. Covers every single slate, including the showdowns. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and good luck tomorrow. Take care.